Somehow, it's fitting that you and I would be indoors for Easter. Here's why. So right after Jesus' arrest and torture and execution, the followers of Jesus spend the next few days hiding in the city of Jerusalem. They're afraid they're going to come to the same fate as the one they followed. So there they are, quarantined off behind locked doors because it's too dangerous to go outside. And it's a different situation than what you and I are going through with the coronavirus, but if you're anything like me, you know some of the emotions they're feeling right now. It's a dangerous time. Anxious thoughts creep in, and you wonder what's going to happen to you and how will this all end? And that's exactly what they're feeling too. But in one of the biographies of Jesus written by a man named John, he describes the resurrection, and then he describes what happens next for these followers of Jesus who weren't there to see the resurrection for themselves. And he says, when the disciples were together in the house with the doors locked for fear of the Jewish leaders, suddenly Jesus appeared and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Now, I don't know what you think about the resurrection, but notice what happens here in this account. Because of Easter, the risen Jesus appears among them and steps through every wall of isolation, and not just the physical walls of isolation. He steps through their emotional walls of isolation, their social walls of isolation, and for those disciples, when Jesus steps out of the grave, he steps through the wall of isolation from death itself. And then notice what Jesus says in the account. He doesn't tell them that their danger is over. He doesn't tell them their fears aren't legitimate, but it's better than that. He gives them a peace, and not a peace because the problems are over, but he gives them a peace that can't be shaken by circumstances, a peace that lives and breathes even in the hardest of times, because the peace he gives them is himself. Peace is with them. And Easter is the ultimate celebration that what's true for them is just as true for you and me. When Easter meets social isolation this year, it's a chance to look at a familiar holiday with a whole new perspective. That when Jesus stepped out of the grave, he steps where no one else can go to end your isolation, social, emotional, and even the isolation of death. Now, I don't know if you've ever considered the implications of Jesus actually physically rising from the dead from this perspective and what it has to do with ending our isolation, but I hope it was a blessing to you. And if it was, I'd be honored if you would share this same message with someone else. And in the meantime, have a happy Easter and peace be with you.